You're listening to Psych to Parent, where we turn brain science into tiny wins at home. I'm Dr. Amy, your not-so-typical school psychologist, mom of two, and endurance athlete. I love a good data set and a diagnostic manual. But I also forget permission slips, overthink IEP emails, and occasionally replay the moment I snapped at my kids in the car. In other words, I'm in the messy middle with you, not above it. This show is for parents of big feeling, big thinking kids who are tired of vague advice and Pinterest perfect behavior charts. Each episode, I'll pull back the curtain on what I see in real evaluations, school meetings, my private practice, and my own kitchen, and translate the research into simple scripts, tiny routines, and nervous system friendly tweaks you can actually use. Think of it as a nervous system rehab meets mindset coaching meets a smart, slightly spicy, non-judgy friend in your earbuds. We'll take one real life challenge at a time and shrink it down into 1 or 2 tiny wins you can start this week. No perfection, no 47-step sticker systems, just small, repeatable shifts that add up over time. Quick legal-ish note in plain English. This podcast is for education and support. It's not therapy, it does not create a clinical relationship, and it's not a substitute for personalized medical or mental health advice. If you're worried about your child's safety or mental health, or your own, please reach out to a trusted professional. Okay, deep breath, drop your shoulders. You're not behind and you're not alone. Let's get psyched to parent. You're sitting in one of those tiny plastic chairs in your child's classroom. The teacher smiles and says, "He's very bright, but he just can't focus." He blurts out answers, loses track of directions, and oh my gosh, have you looked at his desk? It looks like a tornado went through it. I really wonder if you might have ADHD. You nod because that does sound like your kid, but at home, it looks different. When you're at home, one of the things you notice is that homework takes forever because he erases and rewrites until the paper rips. He worries out loud that he is messing everything up. At bedtime, his body is exhausted, but his brain is wired. The wet of questions pour out of his mouth. While his teacher might see ADHD, you see anxiety. And somewhere in the back of your mind, there's a little voice saying, or is this just the season we're in right now? If you've ever been stuck in that swirl, you are so not alone. And that's where we're heading today. Today, we're going to unpack the big question. Is it ADHD? Is it anxiety? Or is it just the season we're in? By the end of this episode, you'll have a simple way to think about 3 overlapping buckets: ADHD, anxiety, and this season of life. A brain-based lens you can use in the moment when your child is melting down or shutting down, and a few tiny wins you can try this week to support your child's nervous system while you figure out next steps. You don't need to walk away with a perfect label. You just need a clear map and a little more compassion for the nervous system in front of you. Now, something really important to note is while we're talking about ADHD, anxiety, and a combination of things of it being this season, this episode is not diagnostic in nature. Rather, is to provide information and education around what this could look like and give you some guidance for how you can seek help. If you have concerns about ADHD, anxiety, or other mental health concerns for your child, please reach out to a local professional or your child's school. Almost every parent who lands in my office feels like they're doing this wrong. They've Googled every symptom, filled out all the forms. They've probably heard, "It's probably ADHD" from one person, and then from somebody else they hear, "It's just anxiety." Oh my gosh, it's like getting 2 conflicting messages. Now, on top of that, they're trying to parent in a world that is louder, faster, and way more demanding than the one that they grew up in. Underneath all of that is usually a loving, exhausted parent thinking, if I get this wrong, I'll mess up my kid. If I push too hard, I'll break them. But if I don't push enough, I'll fail them. If that's you, take a breath. As a school psychologist, parent coach, and mom of 2 big feeling, big-hearted kiddos, I just want you to know there is no gold star for having the, quote, correct label. Even the research world is still untangling how ADHD, anxiety, and environment interact. You're allowed to be in the messy middle, gathering data, trying tiny wins, and changing your mind as you learn more. This episode lives right there with you. Let's geek out for a minute, but in parent language. Let's talk about ADHD plus anxiety and how it's a common combination, but not a sign of failure. When researchers look at big groups of kids diagnosed with ADHD, a lot of those kiddos also meet criteria for an anxiety disorder. The exact number changes from study to study, but the pattern is clear. ADHD and anxiety like to hang out together. So if you have a child who is distractible, disorganized, or impulsive, and they are also worried, perfectionistic, or full of those what if thoughts, that doesn't mean something is spiraling out of control. That combo is actually very common in the research and in real life. Kids who carry both often look more overwhelmed in school, more drained at home, and harder on themselves internally. It's not because they're weaker, but because their brains are running two hard races at the same time. Let's talk about how ADHD and anxiety can mimic each other and feed off of each other. Anxiety can look like ADHD. Here are some of the things I see: a brain that's busy scanning for danger or mistakes and has a hard time staying on a worksheet. I also see a child who is afraid of messing up, who may procrastinate, avoid, or ask the same question again and again. On the surface, that looks like inattention. ADHD can feed anxiety. If you're losing things, missing directions, and getting corrected, your nervous system learns to expect things to go badly. Over time, the thought, I messed up again, easily becomes, I'm bad at this, or something is wrong with me. So when you see both ADHD flavored and anxiety flavored behaviors in your child, it doesn't automatically mean things are getting worse. It may just mean you're seeing how these two patterns overlap and feed off of each other. Now, this is where I think it's important to tune up the volume, where I think now add the season we're in. Kids today are growing up with way more pressure. There's more academic pressure and testing. There are more structured activities and less free play, more digital input and social consumption, less predictable sleep and downtime. We also know from sleep and attention research that when kids are chronically short on sleep, their attention, mood, and behavior all take a hit. And when screen time creeps later into the evening, their brains have an even harder time shutting down and resetting. So even a well-regulated brain is working harder to filter all of this. I like to picture your child's brain as a phone battery. Now, if you are running Bluetooth, GPS, and several apps at once, even a brand new battery drains quickly. That doesn't mean the battery is defective. It means the load is too heavy for too long. If your child already has ADHD wiring or an anxious temperament, this season of life just makes all of that louder. The fuse gets shorter. The meltdowns get bigger. The shutdown moments happen more often. Not because your child is broken, but because their nervous system is giving you honest feedback about the conditions it's living in. Now, let me tell you what professionals look at so you don't have to. When I'm evaluating a child in my practice, or I'm consulting with a pediatrician or a school team, we're looking at patterns across settings. Is this something we see at home and school, or is it mostly in one place? I want to know about the timeline. Has this been going on for years, or did it ramp up after a big change or stressor? The third thing I think about is impact. Is it interfering with learning, friendships, daily routines, self-esteem, some major area of the child's life? Then I also consider other contributors like stress, sleep, screen habits, learning differences, medical issues, big family stress. You do not need to do all of that on your own. That's the job of an evaluation, if and when you decide to pursue one. At home, your job is to be a curious observer and a really good reporter of what you see, not the diagnostician. Let me give you some examples of what this might look like in real life. In my private practice, I keep meeting different versions of the same story. Here are 3 composite kids I see over and over again. The first one I like to call the invisible ADHD girl. She is organized, polite, and tries really hard to do everything right. Teachers say things like, she's doing fine, maybe just a little anxious, but at home she falls apart. Homework takes her ages because she erases and rewrites until the page is gray. She cries over one wrong answer. She worries, what if I fall behind? What if I disappoint you? In my office, what I'm noticing is solid cognitive skills, executive function cracks under pressure, and a very anxious, perfectionistic brain carrying the weight of this season. We're not slapping on a label in that moment. We're gently asking, where do we support her skills? The planning, prioritizing, breaking tasks into smaller steps. And where do we support her feelings? Some self-compassion, tolerating good enough, making room for her to rest. Let me tell you about the second one. I like to call this type of individual the spicy warrior. On paper, this child looks like a behavior problem. There's talking back, refusing tasks, saying no, I won't in loud, fiery ways. But when I sit with this kid and their family, I see a nervous system that hits fight mode very quickly, a deep fear of being embarrassed or failing, a brain that sees school as a series of potential landmines. With families, we work on previewing tricky situations before they happen, shrinking tasks into brave steps instead of giant leaps, and helping adults see that under the fire is often fear, not defiance. The third type of kid I see in my office, I like to call the fried, this season kid. There's the kid who might have a little ADHD, might have some anxiety, but what screams the loudest is too many activities, too little sleep, lots of screens and notifications, and almost their nervous system never really powers down. You see emotional blowups over tiny things, I can't before they even try, or intense shutdowns at the end of the day. In those cases, my first treatment plan is often not a label. It's protect sleep, simplify the schedule a notch, and change how the adults respond in hot moments. Sometimes just changing the season they're in a little bit gives us a much clearer picture of what's underneath. Now let's have a big feeling kid reframe here and what your child might be trying to tell you. Here's the reframe I want you to hold on to. ADHD and anxiety are labels that describe patterns over time. In the moment, your child's behavior is their nervous system talking. Instead of asking, is this ADHD or anxiety, ask, fight might look like yelling, arguing, door slamming, saying something hurtful. Flight might look like hiding in their room, running away from the table, or disappearing into Minecraft or YouTube. Freeze might look like staring at the page, shutting down, or saying things like, I don't know, I can't, even when you know they've done it before. Underneath, most big feeling kids are saying something like, this feels too big for me. I'm scared I'll fail and get in trouble. I don't feel safe or in control right now. When you start to see their behavior as a nervous system story, not a character flaw, your own nervous system can soften. You move from, how do I make this stop, to, what is this telling me? And what might help this brain feel safer and more supported? Let's put some language in your back pocket for those hard moments. For the worried, stuck kid staring at homework, you might try something like, your brain looks really busy right now. Let's take one tiny step together. For the child in fight mode who is yelling and slamming doors, you might say, your body is in big time fight mode. You don't have to talk yet. Let's help your body calm down first. For the avoidant, flighty kid who keeps escaping, you might say, I notice your brain really wants to run away from this. That usually means it feels too big or too scary. Let's see how we can make this smaller. For the bedtime warrior, you may say something like, these what if thoughts love to show up at night. Let's write them down and save them for tomorrow brain when it's fresher. And for you as a parent, when you feel your own fight, flight, or freeze kick up, you can tell yourself, this is data, not a disaster. I'm learning how my child's brain works in this season. You don't have to say any of these perfectly. The goal is not a flawless script. The goal is a slightly calmer, more curious nervous system on both sides. Now let's translate all of this into a few tiny wins you can actually try this week. Tiny win number 1, use the Big Feelings Decoder once a day. Grab the Big Feelings Decoder from the show notes for this episode. Here's how to use it. Once a day, pick one tricky moment, not all of them. Use the decoder to label what you saw, fight, flight, or freeze. Jot down one sentence about what you think your child's behavior was trying to protect or avoid. Over a week, you'll start to see patterns. Most of our defiance is actually fight in response to feeling embarrassed. Or bedtime is when freeze shows up the most. Most of our defiance is actually fight in response to feeling embarrassed. Bedtime is when freeze shows up the most. Homework battles are usually flight from being overwhelmed. You are becoming a more curious detective, not a frantic diagnostician. Tiny win number 2, protect a short after-school reset. For 1 week, experiment with a 20-minute buffer after school. Instead of doing car line snack, homework meltdown, try something like snack, plus something more regulating like some movement, maybe creative play, quiet time, being outside. Then a clear, gentle transition into homework or other activities. You can frame it like this. Your brain has been on all day. We're giving it a pit stop before it has to work hard again. We know from research that both sleep and quality of downtime affect attention and mood. This small reset is a way of giving their nervous system a moment to process the day before you ask it to do more. Notice whether after-school meltdowns, refusals, or I can't moments shift even a little when their nervous system gets a chance to reset. Tiny win number 3. Try a small load lift for 2 weeks. Choose one way to reduce your child's load by about 10% for the next 2 weeks. This might look like an earlier, more protected bedtime routine, pausing one activity, a screen-free hour before bed, or setting a homework time cap and emailing the teacher when they hit it. You're not giving up or spoiling them. You're changing the conditions so you can see their true baseline. If a small change in the environment leads to a big shift in behavior, that's actually great news. It tells you their brain is responsive and gives you information you can later share with a pediatrician, psychologist, mental health professional, or school team if you decide to pursue more support. Here's your reflection question for this week. When my child's behavior feels confusing or overwhelming, what might their nervous system be trying to tell me in this season? You don't have to answer it perfectly. Just start asking it in the moment and notice what happens to your own stress level when you look through that lens. Before you go, make sure you download the Big Feelings Decoder in the show notes for this episode. It's a simple, brain-based guide to help you decode your child's fight, flight, and freeze moments, understand what your big feeling kid might really be trying to tell you, and choose one small, doable response instead of guessing in the heat of the moment. It's there to make those, I have no idea what is happening right now, oh my gosh, those moments feel just a little more understandable and a little less lonely in the season you're in. Thank you for hanging out with me on Psych to Parent. I'm Dr. Amy, your not-so-typical school psychologist, and I'm genuinely glad you're here doing this work instead of quietly white-knuckling it and blaming yourself. Your tiny win from today's episode is simple. Do not overhaul your entire parenting style. Pick one idea, one sentence, or one tiny shift and try it in a low-stakes moment this week. Then notice what changes, even if it is just by 1%. If you want more support, head over to psych2parent.com. You'll find show notes, simple scripts, and parent-friendly guides that go with these episodes. While you're there, make sure you join the Tiny Wins mailing list so you get weekly brain-based tips, real-life examples from my work with families, and first dibs on new workshops and resources. It's the easiest way for us to stay connected beyond the podcast. If this podcast was helpful, it really does matter when you tap follow or subscribe. Leave a quick review or text it to a friend who is parenting a big feeling, big-hearted kid too. This podcast is for education and encouragement. It is not therapy, and it's not a substitute for individualized care. If you're worried about your child or yourself, please reach out to a trusted professional in your area. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are building something new, one tiny win at a time. I'll see you in the next episode, probably with a cold coffee in hand, cheering you on.